Now, number 2 is better yet, advertise yourself and get people who are thinking about selling to call you before they actually tell the world. You can do that through an ad. Have you ever heard or seen the ad, "We buy houses"? Well, I'll tell you right now, that whole "we pay all cash, close quickly," the same type of approach is out there, and you'll see if you look in some of the major publications like the Los Angeles Times, the New York Times, that there are folks already out there actively pursuing this whole thought process, and they're putting "we buy land." They're putting "we buy distressed commercial property." You will see that, although there's not that many people doing it. Why? Because people listen, but a lot of times they don't take action. And that's what I encourage each and every one of you to do, is to continue to take action. It truly only takes one deal, and it doesn't take much to just stick an ad in a paper. Look at the legal section of the newspaper. Contact the heirs and attorneys, and always keep your antenna up. All kinds of friends, all kinds of family, all kinds of people out there. People know people know people. You've probably heard 7 degrees of separation, where you can take 7 people and everybody will all come back because everybody knows everybody. They say it's a small world, and it is. People understand that when others are in foreclosure, others are in problem properties, maybe somebody that you know owns a sandwich shop inside of a shopping center. Next thing you know, they heard wind that shopping center is going into foreclosure. It just doesn't stop. There's constantly things happening, and you always want to keep your antenna up. Your odds of success increase when you choose large populated areas, meaning don't go out in the sticks. That's not what this is about. Don't go out in the sticks. Look right outside the big cities where all these properties are sitting there and they're plentiful. All right? Although we're finding the best deals come from small towns, as I said, just outside the big cities in the path of progress. Number 5 is look for vacant buildings. Vacant buildings, they can be pretty and they also can be ugly. They could have fire damage. They could be abandoned. Of course they can be abandoned. With city notices that are evident, the paper on the wall, you see properties with plywood instead of windows. All right? Talk to the neighborhood businesses of these buildings. They usually know what's owned, who owns it, and what's going on. They have an interest in seeing it restored to beauty for obvious reasons. That goes for people who own homes around certain shopping centers or certain apartment buildings, and they don't like to see something that's ugly and vacant sitting there. It's an eyesore. All right? And they do know who owns it. It's a sure shame you can't look in the mailbox to see who's receiving mail of the property in question. Wouldn't that be easy? All right. You get it. Use common sense to make sure if it's vacant. Contact out-of-state owners through property records or by letter or phone. Leave your cards on the door always. Now, we're going to talk about cards and getting the message out to the market. Business cards are something that each and every one of you should have. As you know, this evening we are doing networking. So if you don't have business cards, that wouldn't be too wise, but you can still network with people and take theirs. Number 6 is REO. It stands for real estate owned. Make friends with bankers and your local lenders. That's really important. Most people think that lenders and attorneys are people that you'd never go talk to. Although it's kind of funny because I'm friends with a lot of lenders and a lot of attorneys. Why? Because I'm in the business of being friends with people who are associated around commercial real estate because I take this business very serious. And I know that it only takes one deal to change your life. In my life, I'm here to leave a legacy. So I'm going to get my piece of this $1 trillion explosion. Won't you join me? Let me know. Let them know you're the one to call. Let them know you're the one to call when something's foreclosing or looming in progress. All right. They need to call somebody. Chances are they're going to call someone else. It might as well be you. All right. And it all comes down to relationships. Hint, hint. Pay them a bird dog fee. Now, somebody came up to me earlier in today's session and they asked, for a bird dog, what do you pay for a bird dog's fee? Well, we're going to go over all of that. Just be careful because when you make promises and you don't fulfill on your promises, that leaves you losing face is what they call it, and then you lose credibility. So you have to make sure that you're crystal clear, that you're pointing people in the right direction. All right. Watch the local paper for foreclosure auction, tax sales, and other listing properties. This one, as far as foreclosure auctions, I just want to make you guys make note that we're going to be covering more on auctions, and email is a very powerful thing. It does physically take somebody to open up a paper and look at a foreclosed auction in the paper, but when it comes to email, it's so cutting edge that you can just look in your inbox, and if you know that you signed up for certain auction companies to send the newest listings to you when they come through the pipe that meet your criteria, that's very powerful, don't you think? Don't you think? Yeah. Absolutely. So auctions held in bad weather where the property is an absolute must to be sold, your chances are to limit competition and get the property at rock bottom prices. And we're going to talk more about auctions, but it's a no reserve bid, and that means that it just goes for the very low bottom end price. It must sell. Those are also government auctions because a government entity does not care what something sells for. If it's a $3 million property, they could care less if it sells for $1 million. So because there's no limit on what can be accepted, exactly, no reserve, you may win big. All right. So with that said, real estate brokers are going to try to sell you something, as always. They're salespeople. They're real estate brokers. They're real estate agents. Their job is to sell you property. Of course, they're going to fluff it and make it sound great. Make sure to avoid the hype. When you approach them, be very specific with them and tell them exactly if the deal fits your criteria or not. That was the acquisition criteria that we went over earlier. Ask brokers to give you those expired listings since they couldn't sell them. That's great. There's something called DOM, and days on market. Even if you know it, write it down, because days on market, when something's lingering for 6 months, which is 180 days, that should be a good target for you to look at for a master lease option. If something's been sitting on the market for 6 months and they can't sell it, a master lease option is in order. And then if you do the MLO versus LOL, then you know the backup strategy to that, which is joint venture. All right? So don't be so selective to one property type. You know, a lot of us are just fixated on certain properties. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and move forward on the low-hanging fruit. So don't be too selective when it comes to property. If the property is an absolute steal, collect and verify all the facts, lock it up, sell it off to somebody who does like that type of property. That's a no-brainer. You know, they have a real estate investment association in each and every city across each and every state. The reason why I mention that is not that I don't want you to bring me the property. I'm just saying that if you need a check, like you need air, and it doesn't meet our immediate criteria, but it's still good enough for somebody else that may practice conventional wisdom, you can always go ahead and take it, tie it up, and shop it over at your local real estate investment association. And I'll tell you right now, there's folks there for a reason. What are they there for? Real estate investments. That's what they're there for, investments. Not just residential, they're there for investments. All right?